Welcome to the FlipTech East Coast podcast, a podcast specifically designed to introduce you to our teacher presenters that are presenting at this year's conference. This year's conference is being hosted by Collingswood High School on June 29th and 30th. In this podcast, we'll be introducing you to Jacob Goldberg, a session speaker, who will be speaking about making thinking visible, mind mapping for deeper understanding. If you're interested in Jacob or any of the other speakers' topics, feel free to register at fliptech.fliplearning.org. Again, register at fliptech.fliplearning.org. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the FlipTech East Coast podcast. And today I have with us Jacob Goldberg, who is presenting at FlipTech East Coast. And he's presenting on his topic is Making Thinking Visible, Mind Mapping for Deep Understanding. And Jacob, before we get started, in the interest of full disclosure, I feel like it's important to tell the audience that I'm a pretty vigorous mind mapper, so I have a lot of interest in this topic and to hear your take on it. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? How do you do it?
All right. Well, again, my name is Jake. I teach social studies at Northwestern High School in Prince George's County. In Maryland. It's right outside of D.C., about 7 miles from the capital. This is going to be my 6th year in teaching. I've recently been a part of a couple of cool programs working on technology integration. We have what's called the Technology Teacher Leadership Institute through the Prince George's County Public School System. And it's really a big focus on a bunch of teachers who know stuff about incorporating technology in the classroom and then spreading our knowledge to our colleagues within the county and outside of the county. We host ed camps in the DC area and just generally trying to improve teaching because I'm not sure how it is where a lot of people teach, but for me, our professional development is approaching useless. And so we're really trying to figure out ways that we can give teachers the learning experience that they deserve and that they want. And so that's one of the things I've been involved with. And this is an extension of that. And I'm just hoping to kind of build some of these ideas and connect with other folks who have similar ideas all around the country or all around the East Coast, however it works out.
Yeah. Are you a flip class guy, or are you kind of a traditional guy, or like what's your class setup look like?
So I teach a couple classes. I teach my AP psychology class is a fair bit flipped. I mean, it's just so boring if we were to go through PowerPoints in class every day about here's this and this theory. So in that sense, yeah, I try to flip that as much as possible where there, it's a lot of videos at home and a lot of, just readings and things like that where they're getting most of the content away from class and we're just focusing on experiments and demonstrations and things in class. In terms of the other classes I teach a world history class where the students aren't quite as receptive to doing homework-y things.
Right. I know that struggle.
Yeah, so it's a little bit closer to a more traditional model for them. But I try to, I'm kind of in that situation where it's a master of none sort of thing, but I just kind of can do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's cool. You were talking about Prince George's County and all the things you're involved there. Have you ever presented at have you ever presented before, or is this kind of your first foray into? And I guess it's not a foyer; it's a foray into like presenting at a conference like this, or what's your conference history here?
So I don't go to a lot of conferences, honestly. It's been more small scale, like I mentioned, like ed camps, things of that size. So definitely, I'm not sure how large this conference is actually going to be. Honestly, I don't really have a good gauge of that. I mean, I don't typically speak in front of a lot of people. That's not something I do all the time. But I'm looking forward to it. I do have this other, I guess, opportunity similar to this. I've been working with Stanford University with what's called the Hollyhock program.
Okay.
It's a fellowship where you're sort of focused on, again, building solid professional development. but it's really through coaching. And so one of the ideas is essentially we'll get a group of 5 or 6 different teachers who teach a similar subject, and we'll all focus on incorporating, I don't know, some sort of formative assessment in our classroom, or some sort of Socratic seminar, or this like student-led discussion piece. And with doing that, we'll basically film ourselves and film the students as we go through these different activities, and share the videos with our group of 5 or 6 peers. And then from that, we essentially critique each other, offer teacher moves, and a lot of the culmination of that is presenting to groups of 40, 50, maybe 100 other educators out at Stanford in California over the summers, and talking about what we learned and the kind of strategies we've come up with and things like that.
That sounds cool.
So it is extremely cool, and I just ended this past summer, so I'm a little bit devastated.
Now, is that why you decided to reach out to FlipTech, or like what motivated you to want to put in a presentation for our conference here?
Well, so I was thinking that I should really try to get out more and go see what other people in other places doing. That's one of the things I loved about the Stanford program, was there's people from all over the country, and everybody has a lot of the same issues, but a lot of different ideas and different things that they go through. And so this is just kind of me trying to, as you suggested, like continue doing that same sort of thing.
Yeah, I really like the way you said that. Same problems and different ideas. That's kind of like what you do in the community of well, I guess any community, but teachers like to share and help everybody out, all our own out, doing those sorts of things.
Yeah,
I guess we have to get into it. So your session is on mind mapping, and so I'm really interested. Forget the audience at this point. Talk to me. What's your session about? Like, give me the nuts and bolts. Tell me all about it.
All right. Well, so I was initially a skeptic of mind maps, and I think I'm going to be out to try to prove to people that it's a valuable tool. And I start with one of my favorite things that has ever happened in, like, not my many years of teaching, but my several years of teaching. Was we did mind mapping a few years ago, is when I first started doing it. And, a lot of those students graduated and went on, and, they're out doing college things and all that. And the one day I got an email from these students that were at the local community college, and like, Goldberg, hey, we just, we're using some mind mapping for our English project. I was like, yes, it stuck. Awesome. They love this. All right. And so I was like, okay. So one kid out of, 200 liked it. And then I got a series of other ones, and I got like 15 emails from different kids saying, oh yeah, we use this. And I was like, this is awesome. This is exactly what I was hoping for. And so I want to use that kind of as a vehicle for, like, hey, look, I promise I'm not making this up. This is a thing. And so that's kind of where I was going to start with, and then get into, well, what is a mind map? I want to keep it sort of introductory, because I feel like a lot of people hear these like things, at least I know I do. I hear like teaching concepts and I go, okay, here we go. Some other like nonsense. Right. They're, making us teach things that aren't real. And I think that we'll go through a couple examples and how you can use it as a teacher to formulate your own thoughts, and how you can have students do it to kind of connect ideas. Because I feel like so much of what I go through in class is, how is this connected to this? And mind map.
And you teach social studies, right? So you're teaching primarily. You said you teach AP Psych, but and so yeah. So to connect those concepts together, across, not the chapters or the sections of a book, but to connect those concepts together across the globe. That's what, from my rudimentary understanding of social studies and what you're trying to do, is connect common concepts. And seems like the mind map is a perfect vehicle for that.
It is indeed. And that's it's primarily what I use it for, is having the students really make those connections, because it's tough to always refer back to like, how is this period of time connected to this period of time? Like they're like, I don't know, periods of time. We kind of know what a timeline is, but this is like nebulous. But if they have a visual, I think I got a far better chance. And then you throw in the geography, as you said, around the world, and like it's becomes a convoluted mess. And the mind map's a good way to sort it out, break it into different headings, and just kind of show how things are all fitting together. We do a lot of that with the psychology too, because in psychology there's basic perspectives on how we approach everything. So there's like a psychoanalytic perspective, and you approach personality, development, you approach everything from that perspective. And then there's a bunch of other perspectives. And so trying to connect things that aren't obviously connected is really where it comes in useful.
So bonus question that's not on the list of questions, just so the audience knows, I sent Jacob a list of questions so that he didn't feel like I was bombarding him. But has mind mapping, is that something you've always done, or has it changed the way that you have approached your teaching? Or like, how has mind mapping influenced what you do in the classroom? Maybe that's the question I want.
Okay. Well, it's really changed how I think about the making thinking visible piece. Because one of the things that I have done a little research on as part of my the Stanford Hollyhock stuff was, how do you reach the silent kids, the kids that don't say anything in class, and how do you understand what they're thinking?
Right.
I mean, yeah, you can have them write stuff down, but it's never quite the same as seeing the connections they're making. Because I know a lot of students will write things down that are like sort of the answer, but I don't know where they got that answer. I don't know why they're thinking. It's not like math. I can check their work. It's just they wrote something down, and I don't know how they got to that point. And so this is where mind mapping has changed the way I think about like the students' metacognition, honestly, is how are the students thinking about their thinking? How are they making connections? And it changes the way I approach teaching, because I'm far more cognizant of how are these things connected and making it explicit to them why we're doing this, how we're doing this, how it's connected. And so it changes the way I approach it, and then it changes the way we cover things in class.
You said you were a 6th-year teacher, right? Or are you further along than that? Did I mishear something?
No, you were correct.
Have you always done mind mapping, or have you started out with a little mind mapping and then worked into it? Like, what's your growth or progression?
The first year I tried it is the year I got all those emails back. So that was 3 or 4 years ago. The first couple years, it was just kind of keeping my head above water, obviously. And
probably with everybody, right? You just you pray you don't screw them up enough, you know?
Exactly. And so we got the mind mapping thing. I thought this sounded like a cool idea, because I was really struggling with, how do I, again, make the kids make connections between ideas. And so we started out using it kind of as a review tool. All right, so now I need you to sum up this chapter in a mind map. And, I'd show them like my example for something sort of asinine like football. And then like, okay, here are the rules section. Here are the teams. Here's the different leagues and levels. And like, right. So how does all this fit under one heading? And so they would do that for chapters. But slowly I've tried to make it more encompassing than that, and trying to make it sort of a whole year sort of tool where you can always refer back. And if we are mentioning behaviorism, I can go, all right, so we're going to talk about behaviorism in the sense of social development. And they'll go, okay, so I know what social development is, and we've definitely talked about behaviorism. I'll go, okay, well, so go back to the mind map. What is this connected to? How does this fit in with stuff? And then they'll try to insert it into those places, and we'll go, all right, so now we know where we're going, how it's connected. And so that's really what I'm trying to get to now. I don't think I've fully perfected it, but I've got the vision.
Right. In 20 years, will it be fully perfect? Probably not, right?
Definitely not. Yeah.
Right. Well, you did talk a little bit about, you wanted to kind of keep it at a kind of an introductory level. You didn't want to kind of overwhelm people with a lot of, stuff. But if you were to describe the people who are going to get the most out of your session, because you're presenting this at at the conference, so who do you want? Who do you think is going to be the person that gets the most out of this?
Somebody who has the general idea of what a mind map is, but doesn't know how to use it.
Could it be a fourth grade teacher? Could it be a high school history teacher? Like, what's the?
I think it's fairly universal. I mean, I think it would be useful for pretty much any grade or subject. Yeah, I don't see why.
Okay.
This isn't I can't speak specifically to any group of people or any target group.
Okay. And so we talked about you being presenting your material there, but the other side of presenting at a conference is you also get to attend the conference. So being an attendee of this conference, what do you hope to get from it? Like, what is it that you hope what do you hope to get from being there?
Well, that's obviously the more exciting part for me, is the getting to see other people's talks and things like that. I do like to travel, and I think it'll be cool to get out of town and still be kind of focused on stuff that I'm passionate about. And so I'm really just looking to talk to people, get some new ideas. Again, I mentioned the ed camps before. It doesn't have to be anything formal. Just people know things is something I always tell my students. And so when I talk to people, they tell me stuff I don't know. Right. And what I'm looking forward to most, the flipped classroom stuff is going to be a huge bonus. Maybe people have some better ideas than I do about how to get the folks reluctant to do homework on board with that. And I think it'll be cool.
That's cool. You mentioned ed camps a few times, and so I don't know if you knew this. I'm sure you did, but just for the viewers, for the people who are watching, tuning into the podcast, the whole second day is going to be, people are going to be able to either do like an ed camp, an unconference style thing, which we're calling Flip Camp, or actually, if they want to, they can do some workshops. So if they get ideas from the first day, let's say they come to you and they want to, do mind mapping, we're going to have space for people to actually workshop and do some workshopping things, or they can do an unconference. So, that informal part of, kind of the conference is going to be available for people, definitely, because I think that, the organizers feel that that's a powerful mode. They think that both the formal presentation and the informal unconference workshop-y sorts of things, kind of mixed together is really is where it's kind of going to set our conference apart. That's for sure.
Right. I think that's a great combo idea that is it's definitely unique. I don't feel like I hear a lot about conferences that are structured that way. So kudos.
Yeah. So that's our interview with Jacob Goldberg, who's going to be presenting at FlipTech East Coast June 29th and 30th. His topic is Making Thinking Visible, Mind Mapping for Deep Understanding. So come out and hang out with Jacob and learn all about mind mapping. And I know that I cannot wait to meet him in person, because I myself am a mind mapping aficionado. I love it. So come on out to meet Jacob, and we can't wait to see you there. Have a great day, everybody. That's it for this episode of the FlipTech East Coast podcast. We hope that you join us at the conference. Again, for more information or to register, please visit fliptech.fliplearning.org. Again, that website is fliptech.fliplearning.org, and we can't wait to see you there.